Hello everyone, Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, writer of words, recorder of videos, and tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to my behind-the-scenes DM-only live stream crafting the Golden Vault, which I build, write, and prepare for our next session of Keys from the Golden Vault. If you're playing characters Cherie, Elowen, Stacey, Tavino, Vera, the stream is not meant for you. We'll be full of spoilers, but the rest of you are always welcome. We stream our D&D sessions live on YouTube every Sunday. You can join our official Discord server with invite link in the description below. If you'd like to support the channel, please check out patreon.com/roguewatson. You can also support the channel by shopping for your tabletop games, CCGs, miniatures, RPG supplies, and more at our sponsor, Noble Knight Games, using my affiliate link. For our campaign, we use Roll20.net for streaming. I use OBS Studio. So I know I called this one Tockworth's Clockworks still, because that's where we are at in the campaign. I'm in danger right now because I have not gotten ahead of things very well. Where we are left off, I mean, we basically finished Tockworth's Clockworks actually a little earlier than I expected, mainly because I elongated the session, much to my hindsight regret at this point. The fact that all we have is falling action and kind of epilogue stuff. And then I think we'll go ahead and level up as well for the next session, but kind of a little in-between mission session. I haven't really nailed down what I want to do next. This is the danger part. So I was very certain I wanted to run the 3 missions that we've just run for, like, all that's lined up just fine. I knew I wanted to start with Murkmire Malevolence and then go to Stygian Gambit and then go ahead and skip over to Tockworth's Clockworks, then maybe do some like minor stuff in between, which I've done. And then I do know that I want to run other heists as we get to them later on in the player's career, including, I have to actually go to a different screen to look at my notes. Shard of the Accursed and Heart of Ashes. I really like those two. Those are both designed for level 8. And then all 3 of the high-level ones, honestly, Affair on the Concordant Express, Party at Palisade Hall, and Fire and Darkness. I guess those are all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 5 highest level adventures from Keys in the Golden Vault, I think, are all worth running. But we're not quite there yet, right? We just made level 6, and the lowest level of those is designed for level 8. And I also want to insert, this is very spoilery, but you all have done a good job of keeping a lid on things. Assuming I can still do this and we're not sick of, this campaign and everything, I would like to transition us into Vecna Eve of Ruin with a very cool cutscene, transitionary thing that happens after the players steal the Book of Vile Darkness from the Fire and Darkness event. We'll see if we can pull that off. But my own notes basically say that I think they're still leveling up almost after every adventure. I think there's probably going to be one later on that they may not actually level up in the middle of. Probably Party at Palisade Hall, because also that one probably doesn't have a lot of combat and things involved, so maybe they won't level up for that. But basically I've got everything from like level 7 on. But weirdly, level 6, I just had in my notes, like, this should be the culmination of the Waterdeep and Rival story arc, in a way, because once we reach level 7 and higher, which we really, we're already in tier 2 basically, then the party is almost no longer has to worry about local stuff. They really need to start expanding and going on to more exotic and I guess grander adventures, which I think is going to line up pretty well. And then, of course, when we get to Tier 3 and Tier 4, they're not even on this plane of existence anymore. They're going to be, like, hopping around, like, endgame style. So, in other words, Tier 1 was Waterdeep, plus, technically, I guess we went into the Underdark at level... I guess is level 5? Isn't really considered Tier 1, is it? Is Tier... I forget where the tiers actually start and stop. Tier 1 is probably level 1 through 4, and Tier 2 is, like, 5 to 9, maybe? Does that sound right? So I guess we're technically still spending the first half maybe of Tier 2 in Waterdeep, and then the second half we're going off on just some other adventures that are a lot further away. The players can still have their bastion. The idea is they still return to their bastion, still return to Waterdeep in between the adventures. They don't go off and do a whole bunch of adventures in a row, for example. So I still want to utilize the bastion thing, at least while we're still doing the Keys from the Golden Vault portion of the campaign. Once they actually get transitioned to Vecna Eve of Ruin, fucking destroying their bastion, and they'll have a new one set up for their big endgame thing. So Right now, I'm looking at my original idea was to run Masterpiece Imbroglio, because it's a guild house, and it could easily work for like the Zentarum, I guess, base of operations or something. And I was going to throw like the rivals in there and have that be a big thing for the party to have to deal with. The problem is, for those of you that may recall when I did my ranking video of all of the keys from the Golden Vault modules whenever the adventure first came out, I believe back in 23 or 24, I ranked Masterpiece Imbroglio as one of the bottom ones. Not a big fan. And that's still true. Because for a guild house that's designed for, I believe, level 5, there's just, for a Thieves Guild, there's just almost nothing going on. It's almost more of a, it's less of a guild house to me, and more of, almost like a safe, not really a safe house. What am I trying to think of? Like, it's disguised as a legitimate business, which I don't think the adventure actually clarifies very well, but it doesn't make sense unless it is, because the whole place is set up like a stable so that you can like rent horses and even rent rooms upstairs, I believe is how it's supposed to work. And yet there are like Zentarum, or sorry, it's not, I would make it Zentarum. It's Keys in the Golden Vault actually weirdly doesn't use the Zentarum because I think they want it to be more maybe setting agnostic or something, so they come up with all these other like guild names and organizations and stuff. So it's very easy for level 5. Like for a Thieves Guild, there's not many like traps or lookouts or anything, and I just found it ultimately really unfulfilling and kind of boring in a lot of ways. In fact, I think the basement is the only interesting thing, and they don't even ever have to go to the basement because I think the actual thing is up in the tower. So I wasn't a big fan of it. So now I'm trying to come with, but I will say the one thing I really do like is the item in question. I think is really interesting, and I still want to use this item as the MacGuffin that they're after. It's a magically sentient painting, and why is it not included here? I guess I need to click on this link. Okay, there it is. Called Constantori's Portrait, and it's gathered all these secrets, and I think that's a really cool idea for something that people would want to get their hands on, especially people in power. It's been collecting secrets for like decades. Primary's purpose is to observe and recall conversations of the past few decades. The portrait has quietly observed countless conversations and now possesses an unquantifiable amount of lore. Everything from criminal conspiracies to secret passwords. It's pretty cool. It's a really nice item. I also was thinking that one thing I can twist from this adventure is that this painting actually belongs to Mr. Trench, ultimately. And that's how Mr. Trench has gotten a lot of his intel, is from this magic painting. So maybe it's actually Mr. Trench who's been robbed, and the villains have taken this painting from him. And then I was also thinking, does that mean they actually robbed like his detective agency? Or because he keeps it just there hidden? Or does he actually keep it out and actively still uses it to gather information? So he keeps it somewhere public maybe. And perhaps that public place has actually been robbed, and they took this painting. I think could be really, and so I like that idea of it, but now I'm trying to come up with like the steps afterwards, I guess. I even looked up Waterdeep Dragon Heist to see if any of the content from there could be applied here in terms of like maps or ideas or anything. One thing we haven't done yet is like a chase sequence, which might be interesting if I can try to pull that off. I don't know if the new 2024 rules have better chase rules or not, but I really want to play up the fact that this isn't just kind of the climax of their like Waterdeep urban adventures, and try to hit all those notes. And then the other thing that I'm considering, and I wish I was considering this like 2 weeks ago and not like, I guess The idea being, I don't think we're going to get to it, hopefully, this week, this Sunday. But I need to have this all nailed down, because this is still like I need to start prepping things and not be in my idea phase, I guess. Is to actually maybe combine this with the next one, which is Vidorant's Vault, which also I don't think is that great. But maybe if I combined these two heists into sort of a single mission, that makes them more interesting. So, for example, maybe their investigation leads them to this guild house, although I don't even think I would refer to it as a guild house. I think it would just be like a kind of a safe house type area that is their front, I guess. What am I trying to think of? Where they do some business out of, I guess, kind of a safe house. And maybe the Zentarum actually own this stables and everything, and they just use this for, to lay low and hang out and everything. And that's like the lead the players get, is to go here, and then somebody here, and I can even put the full rivals here and let them deal with the rivals in this situation, which would scale this one up to make it more challenging. And then perhaps they learn about the vault where the painting actually has been taken and stored or whatever from this heist. And therefore, I wouldn't feel too bad if they get through this heist in a relatively easy, unscathed manner, or maybe even do it mostly social skills or whatever. And then the vault can represent like a part 2 of that same heist. And hopefully that wouldn't be necessarily making things too big or crazy, but given that we just did a big like 6-session, city dungeon crawl, whatever, I think this could, that would probably make this one maybe equivalent in size. The other thing I could do is literally put the vault, instead of a freestanding structure, I could rewrite the vault as being like underneath the guild house. So like once they get to a certain spot, they actually have to go into the basement, and then the basement becomes the vault. I don't know if the ecologic, the structure and things make sense though, because it's supposed to be this 2-story building with a balcony. So it gets a little tricky. Even the image right at the cover of the adventure shows the balcony very clearly. So that would require a lot of redesign to where I'm not even sure I could use the same map necessarily. I like the Vidorant's Vault map. It's a nice 5-square grid map with just all these different rooms the party has to go through. Kind of dungeon crawly style, honestly, because there's not a lot of... I guess there are some windows, but they're all locked and magically trapped, which is kind of a trap for, unfortunately, somebody like Vera who wants to like climb around and pick a lock and enter a window, but the windows literally all have like the alarm spell on them and immediately alerts the guards. Also, the guards in Vidorant's Vault are all the veteran stat block, which is much higher because it's also, I believe, a higher level adventure. Yeah, so Vidorant's Vault is a level 7 adventure, whereas Masterpiece Imbroglio is a level 5 adventure. So maybe if I combine those two, we'll end up with a level 6 adventure. That's not really how it works, but yeah. Yes to the rivals. We haven't seen them in a while. Agreed. I like the rivals a lot. I think it's a cool system, but I realize that unless it's this wacky coincidental thing, or like almost like a Saturday morning cartoon thing where the rivals just constantly follow the party to thwart them, we really need to kind of wrap up the rival storyline while the party is still working locally in Waterdeep, and this makes the most sense to do that in. So that was kind of the whole point of this particular heist mission, story-wise for me, in making Keys to the Golden Vault a campaign, is, yes, use the rivals, but eventually, like, have that come to a conclusion, I guess. And then once the party starts to go off on these bigger adventures, which, again, this is a... I think lore agnostic book, so I can put like Shard of the Accursed or Heart of the Accused and all those. And in fact, I think, is this the one where it even tells you? I think it might say somewhere in the book like where to put those adventures. Or am I thinking of something like Candlekeep? It might not give me any lore information. A lot of them do, but maybe this one doesn't. So I'll have to put them, or maybe there's an appendix at the end that does that. But it's up to me to figure out, like, where exactly they go. There's no appendix here, man. It just ends with the final adventure. Okay. Yeah, so I guess it's the other anthology books that help you out by telling you, hey, if this is, like, Forgotten Realms, then put it here. If it's Dragonlance, put it here. But this one is not that helpful. So, but the point is the players will not be in Waterdeep for, I don't think, any of the rest of their adventures, really. They're going to be going off on these grander things, but I'm not going to be interested in, like, actually running, travel encounters and all that. They'll just go to whatever place they need to go, and then after their mission is done, they can return to their bastion, do the bastion turns, and all that stuff. But I think this will be their final hurrah in Waterdeep, and again, kind of makes sense because just, to me, the arc of the player's progress means that I don't think you can keep doing missions in your beginner city for ever. Like, at some point you would retire and just stop and become like a detective or something, or you continue adventuring career and go off and do bigger and more dangerous things, which is what D&D is all about. You could have the rivals steal the painting, and the trail leads to the stable. Hint that the rivals intend to smuggle it out of town. When they get there, they learn it's a front for the vault. Yes. So yeah, my options, which again I need to nail this down, is, do I have the vault be a separate area, which is how it's written here. The vault is like an abandoned building in a seedy part of town, basically, that this high-powered wizard criminal uses. And again, they don't use Zentarum for any of this, but I would link those both to Zentarum. Also, I would replace that high-powered wizard criminal with Brysis, who is, I believe, leader of the Zentarum in our MCU-ish world, and possibly a Masked Lord of Waterdeep. Like, I forget exactly how things went down there, but I know my wife really, really loved that character, and it would be a really fun Easter egg to be able to use that particular character again and have her behind everything. And a fun twist would be when they make it, to her office or something, which I believe we can use for maybe T13. Although the bad thing is if they go up through the balcony, that gets, which of course they'll want to. I think they would meet her right off the bat. But she would basically just say like, oh yes, I've learned everything I want to know from this portrait, and maybe give some like teases about Mr. Trench and stuff, and then she'll just disappear, and that'll be it. And the party doesn't have to like fight her or anything. It'd just be kind of a social thing. But after all this that they've done to get it, I think that's okay. We don't need a giant boss fight at the end of all these heists necessary. We didn't really have one for the Murkmire Malevolence. We just kind of fought the rivals for a bit. For Stygian Gambit, we did sort of have a boss fight with the well, yeah, I guess we did, because I scaled up the owner of the Stygian Gambit, and then had a bunch of enemies on there, which the party did not fight that one to the death. In fact, I think the only one, and we just had Tockworth Clockworks after that, which they did end up fighting that boss fight and did have to defeat her, but she was, they were able to get their heist part of it done and cripple her army completely. I haven't finished Storm King's Thunder. That's all right. Hopefully you won't need to know too much about it. I don't remember, honestly. I don't have like a, what is it, like a continuity person who's like keeping track of everything in a notebook or something on set for a lot of these, huge IP stuff or long-running shows. Like, I don't have anything like that. I'm just trying to remember and relying on a lot of you for hopefully remembering some things as well. Oh, Tom interrupted watching Dragonlance. That was an excellent session, but yeah, very long one. So, yeah, what I'm trying to figure out is, I guess I need to figure out how it starts, and then we'll probably still end up using Masterpiece Ambrosio, but at least by knowing we're going to transition into Vidorant's Vault, maybe I don't have to worry too much about making just this area better, because I don't think it's that good. I'm trying to see where the under player art. Nope, there's nothing there. Where is the... Why do I not have any pluses or minuses on stuff? Are you all seeing this? What is going on? I'm gonna have to refresh Roll20 again. There was a weird deal. Yeah, I can't collapse. Okay, that's messed up. Let me go ahead and refresh. I had that error where I couldn't play my music. It didn't come up with my music, so maybe it's just throwing me some errors. All right, let's see. There we go. Okay, now we've got the pluses on there. That was a weird bug. I've never seen that before. Okay, so now we have player. There we go. Player art handout. Or is it just player handout? There we go. Greenkey's map. So this is the map they get, and again, a big part of the heist is like having the information. So in Masterpiece Ambrosio, the way it starts is the party is contacted by a client, which is part of this. What is it called? Cognoscenti Esoterica. And they procure in these, I don't know, curios and things. And they come to the party and say, hey, our painting was stolen, but we caught somebody who stole it, which is, where's that listed? Not under Golden Vault. Barn visit, I guess? Organization would like to hire you to retrieve a painting that was stolen from us by a thieves guild. So they already know, because Adrissa is the name of the cognizant, which again, I think I'm just going to use Mr. Trench. Yeah, tied to a scrawny human man with patchy facial hair. So, Grinky Brithworth. He was captured during the theft and has useful information about the Agile Hand and its headquarters. So, weirdly, this one already kind of gives you the information by giving you a captured associate who knows all the information, and that's where they get the map from. You could... So there's different ways I could implement this. I need to determine, first of all, if the painting was stolen. I like the idea of the painting belonging to Mr. Trench. I think I want to keep that as a cool way of, like, this is how he gets a lot of his information. and a cool way of making it personal. Like, this is something that was stolen from him. It's very powerful in the wrong hands, and he knows it. And he needs to get it back. So maybe it's not even an official Golden Vault mission at that point, because it's more like, oh, hey, we got hit. We need to get this back for my and y'all's sake, because it knows all these secrets and stuff. So I need to determine if it was stolen from just his office or something. In other words, is it not actively being used and it's just being stored with all of its information that it's already gathered? In which case, if that's the case, we could just let the party investigate the office and try to find clues. Or we could flavor it as Mr. Trench was able to capture somebody. So Mr. Trench, by the way, is secretly a Rakshasa, and he's gonna have this whole cool cutscene at the end of the game, at the end of this campaign, when he's revealed as who he is and tries to protect the party from Vecna and everything. So him being stolen from is kind of awkward, because he would be able to take out, although maybe a full party of adventurers would be able to incapacitate him long enough to take it. The other way, and if I'm tying myself into knots too much thinking about that, the other thing I could say is that the painting was stolen somewhere else where he was involved. So maybe he either keeps it somewhere else stored, or he keeps it, like I was saying, maybe he just still keeps it in a public place. And the idea is being nobody really knows that it's a sentient portrait that actually spies and gives them information. In which case, what public place was it? And then the party can maybe go investigate that place and find clues. And maybe we can try and do the whole, like, clue shakedown part, which is really more about how Waterdeep Dragon Heist actually handles things versus Keys in the Golden Vault, which the Golden Vault kind of wants to get you to the location quickly and then let you do your heist. Whereas Waterdeep Dragon Heist, ironically, is less about doing a heist and more about, like, investigative work and following clues and doing chase scenes and stuff. So that's where I could be partly inspired about how this one plays out. But I almost feel like the party should put in a little bit of legwork to get the information versus just getting it right off the bat. And you could still use some of the names, like maybe Adrissa runs... what would be a location? I'm thinking like a high-class bar maybe would be the best place to put an object that can just gather secrets. Like, where would people be sharing? I guess you could put it in like a courthouse or something, but I feel like they would have good... I don't know if people would actually be saying... I think like a nice bar that's maybe like across from the courthouse, you know, where like the lawyers and shit go. would probably be the best place to listen in on secrets and stuff. So maybe that place was robbed, and maybe maybe they did take like money and stuff, but they also took this portrait, and Mr. Trench suspects that they were really just after the portrait, because who the hell is going to steal a giant ass portrait, even though it's in this nice like golden frame and everything. So he's concerned it was deliberate. And then the party can maybe through some investigations, this is going to be harder to come up with. I may really have to like look back and read through Dragon Heist and see if there's a good sequence I can borrow from, where they can kind of follow some clues, maybe do a chase sequence at one point, and that information can lead them to the guild house. And then if they end up capturing somebody, then that person could possibly supply them with this map. So again, I want to use the magic painting as the thing, the MacGuffin, kind of a MacGuffin, but also the thing itself does matter a little bit. And I want to use the Zentarum, who are specifically behind it, because I don't see any reason of complicating things with all these extra thieving factions that Keys in the Golden Vault actually uses. I'm using basically the ones from Waterdeep Dragon Heist. We've introduced the Zentarum, we've introduced Xanathar's Thieves Guild. I don't think we need to go much deeper than that. And I'm thinking, if I can use the Zentarum, then we can literally put the rivals that the party have dealt with. It was the rival crew themselves that actually stole the painting, for example. So the party can maybe get hints on that. Maybe they can interview like a drunk who was still there, passed out in the corner or something. Like, I can kind of have all these notes about how they can do this investigative work, which they haven't really been able to do much of yet. So okay, I'm liking that idea. Let's let them. Maybe we'll have it at a like a restaurant bar type area. I catch up on the chat. Mr. Trench could have it hidden at one of the Lords of Waterdeep's houses. Any of a reason Bryces would find out about it? That's true. As long as I almost think that's not even as public of a place, though. What if Trench had it planted in the guild house to collect info on the Zentarum? They discovered its function and moved it to the vault. That's interesting. So that would mean planted in the guild house to collect information. So that would mean he would already know where the guild house is, but somehow he would have to know that it was moved to the vault, though. Or maybe he just says it's time to retrieve this item. The other twist you could say is that he says it's time to go retrieve this item from the guild house. Here's the information for the Masterpiece Imbroglio. They go right there, and then the twist is that it's not there anymore and it's been moved to the vault. I'm still including that twist, I think, either way. We might have to look at the vault for a hot second, but I think the way I make this more satisfying, is we include. I think I'd rather like having the investigative steps first. So having Trench not necessarily know where it's been taken to, only that it's been taken. And then the party actually has to put on their investigative hats and go to the place where it was taken, maybe interview a witness or two, look around for clues, and all of those should lead them to this stables. And perhaps they don't even know, because I think this is supposed to be set up like a legitimate business that's a front for this guild house. And I don't even think, like I said, guild house might not even be the proper term for it, I think, given that it doesn't seem like much of a fortress or anything. Let's have a formation on there. Situated at the end of a winding, cobbled street that runs parallel to a small river, the back of the stables faces a grassy embankment. The guild house is a wooden complex consisting of a main building with an adjoining tower and basement, as well as a livery area that includes stables, office, and quarters for paying visitors. So it's not like it's some, patrolled, Assassin's Creed style fortress or anything that people can't even get near. It's straight up a business. I think it's supposed to be an active stables area, but it just happens to also be kind of maybe just a safe house for the Zentarum, and probably owned by the Zentarum. I would imagine they own lots of legitimate businesses around town. So, in other words, they could have a clue to come here without even... That would be interesting, actually, if they come here without even realizing... If they get clues without capturing somebody, like we could even try to get a chase sequence off, and they don't end up capturing that person, and thus learning the truth about this place, and they could just arrive and try to be gathering information, in which case this whole left side of the building, I count every single window and door is meticulously locked. This is obviously before they introduced windows, apparently, since they're all marked as little tiny doors. Are all actually locked. In fact, every single thing in here is locked. That seems kind of crazy. I thought it was an open to business thing. I'm getting mixed messages here. Doors in the guild house complex are locked unless otherwise noted. Some individuals have keys to specific areas. Others possess a master key that opens all locked doors. Okay, but I thought this was supposed to be legitimate business. What is going on here? This is part of my confusion about this whole place. I fear this one's going to take a lot of work for me. Unlike Tockworth, where the work involved was maps and putting together individual encounters, this one is going to take, I think, a lot of rework. Not only with the investigative process first, which again, Keys in the Golden Vault really doesn't have in any of its adventures, but also just this location in general. Also, aren't these horses supposed to be bigger? This is an error. Yeah, horses are fucking large, so all of these should be this big on this map. This is a subdivided map, so it's got the super tiny tokens, but horses are not medium-sized creatures. So we are enlarging all of the horses, which stables should probably also have the windows thing versus the doors, because that's how stables work. I live in Texas. I am very familiar with stables. My sister owns a horse. They are not sealed off like that. Players can use thieves' tools to open the doors. Oh, it does say most of the guild house's windows are boarded up. Interesting. But again, I don't think the stables should be boarded up. I like the idea of the stables area being open for business. And maybe it's just this adjoining area, which awkwardly doesn't actually physically connect on the inside, it looks like. It's kind of weird. Does the upstairs connect? It's not. Those are two separate buildings connected by, like, a porch. So it's just the left side that's locked, I guess. It says private property, no trespassing. None of this makes any sense. So it's just a private stables? Horses equals awesome. I think horses are actually kind of terrifying. Obviously, my sister loves them. She's a horse girl. But she also, her horse is, she has a Frisian, which is the giant big black horse that, like, the Nazgul rode in Lord of the Rings. And that horse is so fucking big in real life. It is terrifying to me. I don't see that and think, oh, that looks nice. I want to pet it and ride it. I think, oh God, this creature is gigantic. Most horses are very large, very powerful looking creatures. Intimidating in real life. To me, anyway. Wow, yeah, character approaches the porch in plain view, spotted with a bandit in the south balcony. What was out? Hey, you get lost. Can't you read the sign? Weird. I'm getting conflicting information. Am I just making up the point where it's supposed to be a legitimate business, or am I thinking that's the more interesting angle here? What does the barn visit say with the character? What do you know, Grinky? During the theft, Grinky's job was to watch for guards. He was caught and given to a dresser for questioning. Again, I don't think I want to actually leave somebody behind. That just feels too easy for the party. I want them to put in the legwork and investigate the crime scene. Which unfortunately means I'm going to have to develop a crime scene. Trained assassin. The windows of the guild house are boarded up, and its doors are usually locked. 3 guild members have master keys to the doors. If you want to get your hands on a master key, best bet is to snatch it from Elix the Saint frequents as a seedy tavern called the Tipsy Tankard. Ooh, I can have that be the name of the tavern, I guess, that maybe got the portrait was stolen from. By late afternoon, most guild members gone to sleep. Senior guild members bully low-ranking guild members and taking late night shifts. I don't know where the portrait is. It's either in the Guildmaster Dusk's quarters, which are on the second floor of the guild house's tower, or hidden in the basement where new guild members are trained. Supplies are sometimes delivered by the guild house by riders on horseback. All supplies are received and inspected. The stable master at the livery stables. Well, I thought they said at one point that the rooms are for rent, though. How does this make any sense? With everything is boarded up and locked. So the adventure actually wants it to be this like locked down area that no one can come near. I don't know if that's the more interesting angle, though. I think it's more interesting as a legitimate business. And the party has to isn't that more interesting? Like the party has to snoop, or like they can use social stuff and kind of snoop around while that's going on and look around things. Maybe start distractions somewhere. I think that's the more interesting angle, is at least to make half of it legitimate, and maybe this left half, which would presumably be like offices and bedrooms and stuff, is where maybe the rivals are currently holding out. I think that's the more interesting angle. The stable hand named Needly Pits. That's funny. There's a doppelganger here. The figure on the steps is Jaemont the Sinner, a doppelganger disguised as a drunken guest. Okay, why would there be a drunken guest here if it's supposed to be all locked up? Doppelganger pretends to be asleep. Asleep on the stairs? Character in its wake, successful insight check. Doesn't fight it, knows it can't win, allows intruders to pass by. Pass by somebody who's asleep on the stairs? This is all very strange. Granted, I do remember in college, when I was staying at a house for a year in college, my roommates threw a big party. It was several big parties over the year, but one of them I do remember. I lived upstairs in a really shitty upstairs loft area, and I remember at least one person passing out drunk completely at the top of the stairs, and I had to walk around them to go in and out of my room at the top of the stairs. I do remember that, at least. So yes, people can pass out on stairs. Livery office in G5. Yeah, so it makes sense that this would be open. It even says signboards display services and feed for stabling and room rentals. So what the hell? While the office is staffed, a visitor can secure an upstairs bed for CP per night. Okay, was this designed by two different people? Because this does not make sense as written. I didn't even catch this when I first reviewed this either. This does not make sense as written. That it's trespassing private property, immediately aggroed if you step foot, everything is locked and barred. Or B, it's a visitor can rent rooms and can rent a traveler's, what is it? An accommodation be made in the stables for traveler's mount. They rent out the horses. They staff their office. It's like, what is going on here? You're either using this place as a business and people are designed to come here and use it as a business, or you're not, and it's this weird fortress that you've just locked down. I think the former is way more interesting. That it's a legit business that is also owned by the Zentarum, and I think that's a cool twist that the party can kind of deal with things socially here until they get to, I guess, this maybe left side of the building I would have more on lockdown. I guess that's why they're all doors and not windows, because the boarded up thing, which that's pretty painfully obvious, I guess. Maybe you could leave it boarded up on the left side, because again, that's where we can put the rivals. but we'll change all this to make it not boarded up on the right side. Make it. I think we'll keep it a legitimate business. But maybe the left side just says like under construction, pardon our dust or something, and everything is kind of like locked down, nailed down, and maybe it's going over renovations. But of course, it's been on renovations for like years or something. And really, it's just a safe house they have. I would have liked it more if there was like, I guess we could use the basement. I was thinking like if it was a legit business all the way around and the party actually had to get into some interesting places to discover the skullduggery of it, which maybe having to put the safe house in the basement's not a bad play. I would still think the left side would be locked, though, because it would not be for guests. Whereas the right side, it's a stables plus an office. People can rent upstairs, which it has its own upstairs area here on the right side. So we can have all of this be open. Yeah, I think I like this a lot more. I'm already making this more interesting in my book. This is this is how it should have been designed. Basement staircase is located behind the office, which is interesting. It's a secret door, actually. It just says a secret door. Does it mention what it looks like? Secret door in the office's back wall. Okay, I guess it's just part of the wall, maybe. So that's pretty hard to find. Does it mention how does one find a secret door in this particular area? Secret doors. A secret door blends in perfectly with the wall that surrounds it. A character uses an action to examine a stretch of wall, can make a DC 15 perception check, finding any secret door hidden there on a success. Is a secret door. And the other interesting thing is they may or may not end up with this map. Depending on how well, maybe they do like a certain chase scene or something. Does not. Interesting. Secret door isn't necessarily on the map, but it does say there's stairs to the basement back there. Oh, because there's windows. Well, that's dumb. The secret, that's really dumb. I don't like that design. The fucking secret door that goes back into the stairs that lead to the basement also has windows in that room. So what the fuck? That's poor design. So yeah, those would be boarded up. I would have to be. Otherwise, you're just going to fucking break in there. That's stupid. Damn it. The back door can still be locked. Make a secret phrase to get into the Zent part. That could be interesting. A code phrase. Maybe the Zents all don't all know each other necessarily. Could be. So it's a pretty big organization. Let's see. G7, service entrance. Guild member store writing gear here. Search the room yields nothing of great value. Okay, just like a mud room. Courtyard in G8. Where is that? Cobblestone courtyard wedged between the two main buildings. Oh, it's this with the little fountain on it. Okay. The well's winch and rope are starting enough to bear 250 pounds of weight. Does the well go down to? I don't think so. Missed opportunity. It also looks like it's full of water. Conference room in G9. So now we're starting to get over to... Okay, here we go. Conference room, main hall. Visitors enter this hall through the north door must contend with a trap. No trespasser signs. An action and character try to force the door open. Breaking down the door puts the guild house on high alert. Searches the doors for traps. Again, it's level 5, so we may have to scale things up. But I think, honestly, a lot of my scaling up is just going to be putting the rivals here with their tier 2 stat blocks. And kind of replacing most of the other Zentarum figures with just the rivals. I don't think there's that many here anyway. There's... is that the only one? Elix the Saint? Or is there a couple other guys? I thought they mentioned 3 different people. The doppelganger is a little too random for me. He uses mostly the bandits and thugs stat block, but I think we can replace... I mean, it might be worth having a few red shirts around. But I think putting, which I don't know if I've actually used my tier 2 stat blocks yet or come up with them. And frankly, when I use them at tier 1, that might also be strong enough. Like, was one of them like a scout captain and a bandit captain? Like, those are all probably still strong enough, especially if they're near max hit points. As the trap is disabled, tugging on or turning the knob causes the vial on the door to break, releasing a cloud of poisonous gas. DC 14 con save for 3d10 poison damage and poison for a minute. That's only on the back door, though, apparently. G11's a kitchen. G12 is a parlor where there's a lot of people in here. 3 thugs and a gladiator. Drinking and playing card games. The thugs are poisoned and unconscious. Great. Probably not going to use that. Also, gladiator is a stupidly powerful stat block. The blue chair in the corner covers a secret trap door in the stone floor. Pulling open the trap door reveals a wooden ladder that sends 15 feet to area G37. How the fuck would they ever find that? That's interesting. Wow. So there's 2 or 3 different... I'm seeing multiple trap doors in the basement. That's pretty good. We might have to use this basement. This basement might be good. And we could have somehow the vaults... We could replace this basement with the vaults, but I'm not sure it would work out because the vaults... I just don't know if it makes sense for this stuff to be in the basement. Like, I would, at the very least, have to eliminate this balcony completely and just have it be almost a reverse where they're coming down from the top of the stairs, maybe. Which would be like, yeah, descending from the 2nd floor. Or descending down into the vault. Shoot, that doesn't make sense here, though. There's only 1 stairs. So you don't have to actually move around in here. You can just go down the first stair. I don't know. See, if I can make it work, then maybe we can just attach the vault physically to the guild house. Otherwise, I don't think it's necessarily a bad play to make this a separate location. I don't know if the party would have the wherewithal to be like, all right, well, let's just go back and long rest in between these 2 adventures. I mean, you could allow them to do that. But also, you could say, like, oh, time is of the essence. You know, we really don't waste any time here, which is the DM's way of saying, like, hey, this is all part of one adventure arc, and I would let you guys short rest, you know, after doing Masterpiece and Berlioz. But you guys need to get over to this vault area as soon as possible and treat that as, like, heist number 2. But then, you know, do they want to, like... check it out and do some reconnaissance first? There's not much you can do. I don't think you're supposed to be able to go inside. Although it does say, interestingly enough, there are guards posted at the entrance, but not the out. There's one outside, I guess. You can slip inside and they don't immediately aggro because it says that apparently people wander inside this quote-unquote abandoned building at times, and they just kind of usher them back out so they don't immediately turn hostile on you. Otherwise, you can just fight your brute force your way through the guards or disguise, I guess, whatever, or others can make their way up into the balcony. The balcony almost makes things too easy, though, because I think the thing is found on the 2nd floor. So if you're able to get into the balcony, get everybody up into the balcony, I think you can kind of skip like everything that happens on the 1st floor, maybe. There's even a ladder here. Like, why is there a ladder? You're just asking people to come up into the balcony. That's irritating. So I haven't decided on that yet, and we may not have to decide that, and we may not use Veteran's Vault at all. You know, if we end up liking the Masterpiece and Berlioz stuff enough, we don't necessarily have to use Veteran's Vault. We can just stick to here and stick to them finding the painting somewhere here. We don't have to include that twist, and maybe it's partly that might be based on how they're doing here also. Because I think initially they don't have to go to the basement at all. Is that correct? G13 has stairs going up. And by the way, one of the dungeons I really looked at was from Waterdeep Dragon Heist. If you recall, the 4... I have a lot of problems with Dragon Heist. I can just go off on a whole another rant about it. But the 4 faction dungeons from the different seasons of Dragon Heist. This is spoilers, I guess, for people who are actually playing in Dragon Heist, by the way, so plug your ears for a second. The 4 main faction villainous headquarters are not used in the actual adventure at all, which is weird as hell. Even though they are given maps and given like itemized annotations for like dungeon crawls throughout all of them, but as far as I'm aware, unless I missed something in the adventure, you don't actually ever use those locations. They're there for whatever reason, but the actual adventure is just a sequence of smaller places around town as you're chasing this MacGuffin around and then eventually reaching the Vault of Dragons, because I think it only goes up like level 5 or something. So what I was thinking of doing is like, oh, well, maybe I can use one of those locations for a heist dungeon crawl. I wouldn't be able to have one of these because I don't have one of these. You know, there's only keys in the Golden Vault, but I could perhaps use one of those. And then I looked up, unfortunately, the one that is the Zentarum one is very interesting. I like it, but I don't know if I can flavor it for Bryce's hideout, if it makes sense much. But it's Colat Towers, and it's this abandoned wizard's tower. It's actually like kind of two towers right next to each other, I guess. It's surrounded by a force field, which the party has to be able to get inside. And then it's got, I don't know, I think it's actually a pretty interesting dungeon design. It's got mimics and spectators and gargoyles, and then a bunch of the thug stat blocks. There's invisible staircases. Like, it just feels kind of a weird, not weird. It's a nice designed little wizard's tower, I guess. Although when you reach the end point of it, you then get transported to this extra dimensional sanctum, which is where you end up fighting the simulacrum of Manchun, and then some other folks in there. And unfortunately, the Dragon Heist maps are garbage. If you recall, they're really, really bad. But by now, you can find better ones around the interwebs. So I could do something like that. I still think I would start with Masterpiece Ambrosio regardless, but if I wanted to move the painting to one other location, something like that, I probably wouldn't use the Xanathar one, because that's like a dungeon in Skullport, which is very dungeony, and that I don't think would be appropriate here. Excuse me. I didn't look at the Jarlaxle one, because I think that was aboard a ship, and I don't think that would be very appropriate. I did look at the Cassalanters one, which is an estate, which would be appropriate. But at that point, it's... if I had to use an estate map, I guess I would use that one. And that would probably be the most appropriate. But it's also probably the least interesting in a lot of ways. Because it's just an estate map with a lot of like guards and stuff patrolling around. Which, I mean, that could be cool from a heist standpoint. So I might look at that one again and see if that's worth doing. But then at that point, I'm not using the Castle Lanterns at all. I'm replacing that with just Zentarum, like probably like Bryce's house or something that they would have to go infiltrate, perhaps. Because I like the idea of using her at the end, or maybe she's here, but because that's you could replace Guildmaster whatever Dusk or Drusk or something. With her, but that feels too small of a role, and I don't feel like she would be here in the safe house. So I don't know if I would just use like Arlo and the gang basically for this area. And then they point to like where the painting has already been delivered, and maybe one of them's delivered it. I don't know. Or like I said, we put like Vidoran's vault in the basement, or we just put the painting in the basement. There's things we can do. But I've got to decide on what to do. I've got too many options. I think I have, at least through this crafting stream, to talk myself into at least using Masterpiece Ambrosio as the framework for their next mission. But I think we're going to change. We're going to keep the painting, but we're going to have it. The painting ultimately belongs to Mr. Trench. And so it's a personal crime, and he knows the importance of it and everything. And I think I like the idea of the party not being given like, oh, here's a captive thief that has all the information for you. Which, granted, is how a lot of these heists have worked, is they get all the information about it and then they go do the heist. I think this time a slight wrinkle will be like, you don't have the information. You have to actually go investigate the crime scene and get the information yourself. And maybe we can look at doing a chase sequence or something. Figure something out there, and then that will lead them to this location where they may or may not actually end up with this map, depending on how much information they're able to gather, I guess, successfully. From there, and then we'll put the rivals here as well. It was the rivals, the Zentarum rivals that we introduced way back in Murkmire. that actually pulled off that heist to steal the painting. From there, I haven't decided. I haven't decided if I want the painting to actually be here, which is how, of course, the adventure is designed, or if I want to move it somewhere else, and how I want to deal with all that. But what I would love to do ultimately is have a cameo, because we love doing that for our little MCU, what do we call it, RCU, adventures for all our past characters. And I think this would be a great opportunity to showcase Brysis, a character we haven't seen in like 7 years or whatever it's been, 8 years. Not for the party to necessarily fight her or anything, but just come across her and have her be the one who was ultimately in charge of the Zentarum and had requested this heist, and she can maybe have some kind of fun thing where she's like, yeah, I already got all the information I need. You can take it back now. And like the fact that she just doesn't care, I think would be also a really fun twist. And then maybe drop some hints that like, oh, I know what this Mr. Trench is up to and all that. And the party can try to confront him on it if they want. I think that would be narratively satisfying, at least. Wait, there's an Oni here? G21? I didn't even see that. Oh, I guess because they're disguised. Multi-sided. Can Oni disguise as different creatures? Change shape. They sure can. Did the Oni stat block? Can they still do that in 2024? Is there still an Oni in 2024? If there is. Why is there an Oni here? Why is there random, like, doppelganger and Oni? Like, what is going on in this guild house? Yep, they can still shape change. Or into a large giant. Small or medium humanoid or a large giant or its true form. Which I think is also large, isn't it? Or is it medium? Yeah, it's a large fiend. Also casts invisibility on itself. Wow, that's kind of a boss level creature. That's fascinating. It's just randomly here? What is going on? Or is it Oni just renting out the room for reasons? Reclusive rarely interacts with other guild members. He only has 3 ravens that act as messengers. Okay, so this is one of the other 3 guys that the one dude talked about, right? He says there's like 3 people. Where's that guy? Guildmaster Dusk, Elix the Saint, and Jaemont the Sinner, the Spy. The Master of Ravens, Gwish, might have a key as well. Okay, so these are the major players of this particular weird-ass faction, which includes a doppelganger and an Oni, which I guess would make excellent thieves, given they can fucking disguise and stuff. I don't know if I want to use any of these creatures, though. Use animal influence to speak with them. The ravens deliver secret messages to the Guildmaster spies abroad. That's kind of a cool idea, though. More characters interrupt the Oni. It politely asks them to leave. If they refuse, it shoos away the ravens and attacks the characters. The Oni's glaive leans in the northeast corner behind the door. The Oni is hungry. It sneaks into from the guild house and invisibly preys on the city. Dang. The trunk is filled with gnawed bones mixed with small bundles of torn clothing. That's pretty creepy. Interesting. I don't know how much they need a master key. I guess if like every single door is constantly locked, like that seems insane. We don't need to lock every single door inside the house. That feels a little too much. It's interesting though. Given that that's actually an impressively powerful stat block that could serve as an interesting boss fight if I can work that in somehow. Oni can cast Charm Person, Cone of Cold, Gaseous Form, Sleep, Darkness, and Invisibility. Those are all very interesting spells. Has Regeneration, and takes an action to change its shape. Very interesting. Could also reveal one of the rivals, I guess, as being a secret Oni, but that seems interesting. It's actually... Or wait, is this the old one I'm looking at? That was the old one. Okay, the old one was a giant. The new one is considered a fiend, which is lawful evil. Well, I guess they're both lawful evil. Let's see, the new one... Okay, it has invisibility at will as a bonus action, which is huge. It has Charm Person at level 2, Darkness, Gaseous Form, and Sleep. It lost Cone of Cold. but it gained a ranged attack called Nightmare Ray, which deals psychic damage and gives the frightened condition. Interesting. Spell save DC 13 plus 7 to hit. Looks like that's the same. Yes, that part's the same. Visibility is a bonus action. It's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. Interesting. Okay, and then Elix the Saint is in G23, which again, we're going to replace these with the rivals, I think. Carries a master key, has treasure, has office in there. So it's interesting that the Raven thing is in the main house upstairs, which feels weird because that should be like the public house where they're renting out rooms. Unless some of the bandits just stay up there. So I feel like the Raven should be more like here on the left side. 25 has a minor bedroom. 26. Guildmaster Dusk. Supposed to be asleep. Assuming they come in at night, I guess. Master Key is there. Okay, so 27. Yeah, it's in the tower. Which I guess technically you have to go through the Guildmaster's like bedroom to get to it. So it is pretty well guarded if I put it in the tower. But that means they can skip the whole cellar, which seems like that's a cool area. Yeah, we're gonna have to think about this a lot, but I think we'll at least I think we at least know what we're gonna use, and I still have to figure out how to. I still have to put the investigation part together first, because that'll be the first thing that they do. So actually, that'll be what we have to plan. Instead of even looking at the map and figuring out that stuff, the next thing we really need to plan is the investigation part. If we want to do that, which I think we do, because I think that's more narratively interesting and gives the players something they haven't actually done before, which is doing investigative work versus just getting all the information from a client and then going to the place and casing it. I think this one will be more interesting if they have to do a little bit more legwork, and then possibly get information. Maybe if they can capture somebody and get the heist handout or whatever, or just come here and case the joint while it's like half open. Because I also like the idea that it's actually a active service that's just a front business for a safe house. It's a lot. All right, I think that's going to do it for this session of Crafting the Golden Vault. If you enjoy the content, as always, please check out patreon.com/Rogue Watson. Shout out to the platinum patrons: Joe, Will, Thomas, Brandon, Genocide, Roleplay, Roll, Christopher, Big Nut, John, Nathan, Andrew, Stephanie, Jason, Lemmy Spuds, Morty, MLC, Tom, the Eating Dogs, Marcus, Hugo, Jello, Sky, Zim, Dante, How about Dimnix, Robert, and Neil. And gold patrons: RPG, Papercrafts, Big Boy, and Yuma. This is the Lounge, Jerome, Nathan, Scott, Rufus, Jerry, Glenn, and Mark. Thank you all very much for your support. See you for Baldur's Gate Friday and D&D on Sunday.